Welcome to another edition of the Nightly Nuge. Ted, tonight, this is a topic that you talk about all the time. A Virginia school teacher, Abby Zwerner, who was shot by a 6-year-old student in her class. She was shot through her hand and into the chest and throat area as she put her hand out to defend herself. And she had expressed her concerns to the principal and assistant principal, Ebony Parker, about this boy, but they ignored it. And this 6-year-old kid showed up with a gun in his pocket and shot his teacher. Yet we hear all across the country, Democrats, including lawmakers, saying we have to ban guns, we have to ban assault weapons, we have to ban high-capacity magazines. It's the gun, it's the gun. It's the gun. It's not the criminal. Boy, I tell you, I think there's more to this story than the gun. I think the educational system has let America down. We're raising kids with absolutely no discipline. The lack of parental structure in the home is leading to this, Ted. And I don't think you can ignore the fact of this hormone therapy that they're giving to these young kids so they can transgender at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years of age. All of this is playing a part. But my last comment before I turn it over to you, Ted, is I think we're looking straight down the barrel, no pun intended, of a cultural war of good versus evil. And those on the left continually perpetuate evil doing, all the while turning a blind eye to the real issues. Tragic story, Ted. What's your take?
The violent crime explosion in America is not a hardware issue. It's a heartware issue. We have abandoned true love, discipline, guidance, nurturing. But the most important parental and social responsibility is to discipline young boys and girls to be responsible, obedient, kind, loving, conscientious, and to conduct themselves in a responsible manner. That's how I was brought up. That's how you were brought up. And we had unlimited access to unlimited firepower. Once again, I'm going to reiterate what everybody always says when they try to blame the gun. When I was growing up, there was a time you could buy a machine gun from the Sears Roebuck catalog. We all had guns in school. I carried guns on airplanes, commercial airplanes. I've always had a gun. I went to my Future Priest Club retreat weekend with my dad's 1897 Thumbbuster 12-gauge Winchester and a box of number 6 shot and went squirrel hunting at the Future Priest Club retreat. Well, I was on my way, wasn't I? Guns unlimited, crime non-existent. No school shootings, only that tower in Austin much later in the years. There was no such thing as children shooting each other. Never in my growing up from 1948 to 1980 something did I ever have I witnessed in my lifetime children shooting each other. That happens every day in Chicago.
What changed? What changed?
The yes, sir, yes, ma'am, no, sir, no, ma'am. Politeness, respect for your elders, respect for authority. It began to deteriorate right around the time the beatniks turned into the hippies, because there was this mindless blindness to tolerance of dangerous behavior, disrespectful behavior, comfortably numb escapism. And we're reaping the toxic products of sowing those toxic seeds. And I got to tell you, I want to emphasize that in my world and in your world, my family, my neighbors, my hunting buddies, my band, my crew, all my team, everybody in my life, positive, conscientious, loving, legal, safe, respectful. But when you get into these, and it really boils down to, and it's so, people will go, that's an awful wide stroke of a single brush. Yes, it is. It's called the Democrats. where the Democrats have taken over these cities, every one of them, not only do you have feces and needles and homelessness out of control, these beautiful cities destroyed by the lie that comfortably numb and irresponsible, dangerous, violent criminal behavior is tolerable. You check out the statistics. The Democrats will reward the worst amongst us, and that spreads right down to young children. Think of the depth of evil that a 6-year-old, that's a child, that's a little baby boy, would shoot his teacher, and the principal was told he had a gun. They actually kind of researched it and investigated this claim that the kid had a gun, but they didn't do it with due diligence. And the kid shoots his teeth. And this isn't the first time this has happened. It's because when you fail to respect God, family, country, when the family is okay with piercings and tattoos, and I'm not saying that piercings and tattoos indicate evil, but when that becomes a priority and you can pretend you're not the gender God made you, and you can make excuses, and because your feelings hurt, you can take a rifle into a Nashville school and murder innocent people, this is the plummeting of the consciousness of good over evil. And now where evil is actually celebrated by Democrats, all in the means to disarm Americans. That's why Barack Obama and Eric Holder illegally sent guns to the Mexican drug cartels so that they could say that we need more gun control when the president and the attorney general were violating gun laws.
How much blame needs to fall on, I hate to constantly harp on Hollywood or the music industry, but we have certain lessons and stories coming out of Hollywood now, which compared to the Andy Griffith Show when you and I grew up, and those old Westerns where there was good and bad and a lesson and Leave It to Beaver. We now have a genre of music rap that celebrates single parents, gun violence, anti-police. There has to be a connection there, Ted. Final word.
It's a toxic cocktail that you're describing. The abandonment of conscientious, loving parenting, the abandonment of discipline in the school, the explosion of violent celebrated video games and music and movies, and the pedophilia that runs amok in so many movies, including Disney movies, and a lot of imagery coming out of Hollywood and the music industry, celebrating nastiness, celebrating cruelty, celebrating violence, and only the guilty need to feel guilty. But when I was growing up, there was some of that, but now it's overwhelming. So there's a toxic cocktail of cultural abandonment that young people are bombarded with, and we're paying the price in lost lives and evil and cruelty running amok. So once again, I leave you with this. If people that are not incensed and angered and upset and want to fight back against the evil and the violence and the celebration of crime by the Democrats, you have to call your mayor and your school board administrators and your senator and your congressman, and again, your chief of police, your state trooper commander, and your sheriff. You have to let everybody know. Your governor's office has to hear from you that we will not tolerate this tolerance of criminality, this tolerance of violence. That's what they're doing. And if good people don't voice their concerns, you're actually ushering in more of this hate and crime and violence. We have to speak up. In my song, Stormtrooper, it says, 200 down and it's coming around again, talking about the revolution. Raise your healthy voice. Where's the justice? Where's the law? Raise your healthy voice. And that's good over evil. And if good people don't raise your good voices, evil wins. It's that simple.
You know what, Ted, on the topic of good over evil, tomorrow is Holy Thursday. As we work our way into Easter weekend, which is the epitome of good defeating evil. I want to talk about that with you tomorrow. And I also want to talk about the ACLU in Pennsylvania sued a school district because the school district banned the after-school Satan Club. Let's talk about that tomorrow right here on the Nightly Nooch.
Welcome to the Nightly Nooch with your hosts, Ted Nugent and Keith Mark.